Good morning, everybody. It is Monday, May 10th, and this is our morning drive live. At the end of last week, it was either Friday afternoon or Saturday morning, there was a post in the group about bonuses and pay raises and when they're given. And I wanted to talk a little bit about that because I did get a number of Facebook messages over the weekend asking if they, when they were appropriate, and just a bunch of different questions. So I just wanted to address them because I didn't actually respond to a lot of the messages over the weekend because I was dedicating my weekend to my mother and didn't didn't have the time to respond. So I wanted to address the vast majority of them this morning on the Drive Live. So the first thing I'll say about that is I do not ever tie reviews with pay raises. I treat them as two totally separate things. In my office, we do quarterly performance reviews. So every 3 months, there's a performance review done. There is a performance review form that gets filled out. Part of it is filled out by the manager or that person's direct supervisor. Part of it is filled out by the employee who the review is being done for. And then part of it is filled out by either myself or my HR director. And we do those every quarter to help people know where they're doing well, congratulate them for doing a good job in certain things, and also to identify areas of improvement, things they could be doing better. So those are done every single quarter, every 3 months, and it's a rolling 3 month time. Now, what I will say is for new employees, we do one at 30, 60, and 90 days. That way, as they're progressing in their new position, that's they have immediate feedback. And by immediate, I mean every 30 days, but they have near instant feedback on how they're doing and how they're progressing. And we're more easily able to identify if someone is going to be a good fit in the position that they are in. That happens, those 30, 60, 90, whether it's a new employee or an existing employee who goes into a new position. So if somebody gets a promotion or if somebody transfers from one department to another, if you have an assistant who moves to the front desk, becomes part of the admin team, that's when I would do a 30, 60, 90 review after their transfer, their change of job duties becomes permanent or in effect. So, like I said, I never tie performance reviews with salary increases, with bonuses, because I just don't believe in that. I believe that people get pay raises or earn bonuses when they provide more value to the business. And that really is what it's all about. And this is how I put it to people when we're doing interviews is, if you come in and you do a great job and after 6 weeks or 8 weeks, you're worth more to the company than you were the day you started, why should I make you wait until you hit your 90th day to get a pay raise when you're worth more to me now? But the other side of that coin is if you come in and you do the bare minimum, you don't help to increase value for the company, you don't help grow the company, you don't come in with ideas, you just do the bare minimum, exact what you need to do just to keep your job. Why, now that you've been here 90 days, Why are you suddenly worth more to me than you were the day you started? Just because you've crossed some imaginary line on the calendar. If you're providing the same amount of value, I will value you the same. So I don't do pay raises associated with you've been here 90 days, you've been here a year, et cetera, et cetera. I do them when you provide more value to me. Now, as far as bonuses go, specifically talking about in a dental office, the way I set up bonuses is just like this. I tie everything to budgets, which means every single thing in an office has a place where it fits into a budget. For payroll, for employee expenses, I have very defined budgets based on the office's desired profit margins and the goals of the owner. And within that, I have three categories of employees. We have assistants, we have hygienists, and we have administrative employees. And each one of those is assigned a specific percentage of overhead for their employee expenses. You have to remember payroll isn't the only employee expense. There's benefits, there's PTO, there is employer tax liability. A lot of people forget about that. If you're making $20 an hour, you're not costing the practice $20 an hour. If there's no benefits, if the only thing you get is your salary, is your $20 per hour pay, you're actually costing the business between $24 and $25 because there are employer tax liabilities that they have to pay over and above your salary. There's the 7.5% Social Security and Medicare match. There's workers' comp. So there's more expenses to the practice to have you than just your straight hourly rate. So when I say a percentage of collections, that percentage is not based on hourly rates. That percentage is based on your total expense to the office, including benefits, employer tax liability, PTO, health insurance, 401ks, vision, et cetera, et cetera. That gives us your total cost, what you cost the business every single month. And I look at percentages. So, if I have a budget that hygiene should be 9% of collections, then at the end of the month, we look at the collections, we know what those collections were, and the hygiene overhead expenses, salary, employer tax liability, benefits, so on and so forth, all together, CE, uniforms, all of that should be 9% or 8% of that collections number. When I do bonuses, anything under that 9%, let's say, it's $9,000 was my target number. We collected $100,000 last month. I want hygiene to be 9%. That puts me at 9,000 a month for hygiene expenses, employee expenses in the hygiene department. If it was only 8,000, I take that other $1,000, I divide it up, and I divide up a percentage. It can be 20%, 30%, 50% of that number, and I divide it among the employees in that department. It may not be equal because not everybody may have worked equally, but that's how I do my bonuses. Your bonuses are based on value provided to the business. Their bonuses are based on what you're bringing in. There's a lot of different ways to do bonuses. I personally, I prefer for hygiene to be on a percentage. Naturally they have an hourly guarantee, but I pay them based on a percentage of their production. But when I do bonuses, that's how I do it. So, hopefully that answered everybody's question. Everybody who messaged me over the weekend asking about bonuses, That's the way I do it. Yes, it absolutely requires transparency. Everybody has to know what was collected. Everybody has to know what our total expenses were. But you get that BAM number, that break even number, and everybody should be striving for that goal, because when the company succeeds, the employees should succeed as well. So that is it. I am here. Everybody have a fantastic Monday, and I will see you guys tomorrow. Good morning, everybody. It is Tuesday, May 11th, and this is our morning drive live. So I want to talk today about a couple posts that have been in a few different groups in the past 24 hours or so, specifically talking about who is financially responsible for treatment for patients. So, the first thing I want to say is, in your new patient paperwork, you should have a financial consent or a financial agreement for every single patient. Each individual patient, no matter if they are 2 years old or 20 years old or 50 years old, should have a financial agreement in their record, in their smart docs or doc center, wherever you save that information, somewhere in their chart. Now, who signs that financial agreement makes a big difference, because someone under the age of 18 cannot legally sign a financial agreement. There are very few exceptions to that, but they can't sign a financial agreement if they're under 18. So naturally, the parents will be, or one of the parents will be financially responsible for that patient and their account. What that means, though, is a lot of offices will just have, let's say dad brings himself and the 3 kids into the office for their first appointments, their new patients. They're all coming in together. Dad brings himself and the 3 children in. Dad signs a financial consent for him, but a lot of times offices will miss having a financial agreement signed for each child as well. So, you can do that a couple different ways. You can either list them all on one financial agreement, have dad just sign once, or you have a separate financial agreement, same form, just with a different patient name for each person, and dad will sign all 4. Now, people will say, but wait, the insurance is in mom's name. So we make mom the responsible party on the account. But if mom is not the one signing the financial agreement, that is totally and completely inappropriate, because the mom never agreed in writing to be financially responsible for that account. You can be a subscriber, you can be a policy holder and not be the responsible party for an account. And we see that a lot. That happens a lot of the time, that there'll be 2 different people. One is the policy holder, one is the financially responsible person. So, you have to make sure you're doing that. I prefer to have a separate financial agreement, separately signed for each individual patient. So if we have a 5-year-old, a 9-year-old, and a 14-year-old, there's going to be 3 agreements. They can all be signed by dad. Dad is the responsible party. So again, just because someone is the subscriber, because someone is the policy holder, doesn't automatically make them the responsible party for that account. Now, when that 14-year-old turns 18, somebody is going to have to sign a new financial responsibility. That could be dad or mom again, or it could be the patient. So, when a patient comes in and they're an existing patient and they've been coming to you since they were 12, and now it's their first visit after turning 18, there are a bunch of new forms that that person is going to have to sign. They're going to have to sign your acknowledgement of receipt for your NPP, for your Notice of Privacy Practices. They're going to have to sign HIPAA disclosures if they want you to be able to talk to mom or dad about their care, about their treatment. Mom can always call and make an appointment, but if you're going to release information to mom about what treatment needs to be done, you need to have a HIPAA disclosure allowance in order to do that, and that has to be signed by every person over the age of 18. So you're going to have to make sure of that. The other thing an over 18 person has to sign is a financial responsibility card. Again, just because they're still on mom's insurance or they're still on dad's insurance doesn't mean that for patient portions, for, if insurance is canceled, whatever it may be, that patient is 18 years old. They are legally financially responsible for that bill, for that treatment. Now, there's a very good chance mom or dad are going to continue paying it. My son's 21. I pay for his co-pays. I pay for his deductibles. I pay for all of his treatment for everything at, doctor's offices, dentist's offices, everywhere. I continue to pay for that. However, he had to be the one to sign the financial agreement. And the last time he was at the doctor, I was actually with him. They wouldn't allow me to sign as the financially responsible person. They required that he was an adult, he's over 18, he has to sign as the financially responsible person. I can still pay the bill, but at the end of the day, if I don't pay the bill, he's the one responsible for it. So, that's something that we need to keep in mind as we're moving forward, is that when a patient turns 18, even though we still technically view them as a kid, my kid is my kid forever, but legally he is an adult and he has to sign all of his own paperwork, and financial responsibility does depend on him. So hopefully that clears it up. If you have any questions, please let me know. Other than that, I am here. Everybody have a great day, and I will see you tomorrow. Good morning, everybody. It is Wednesday, May 12th, and this is our morning drive live. Today I want to talk about secondaries again. As many of you saw, the calculations spreadsheet for calculating patient portions and write-offs when a patient has a secondary has been uploaded to the group files. It is there. It is ready for download and ready for everyone to use. So that's step one. But step two is understanding outside of the spreadsheet how it works, because that's an important function of what we do in a dental office is knowing how it works if for any reason you can't access the spreadsheet, or somebody deletes it out of the email or off of your desktop or whatever. Because remember, that spreadsheet's not 100%. There's always going to be the oddball out. There's always going to be downgrades and denials and different things to take into account that, it's really impossible to account for every single possibility. So, let's do a quick refresher on how it works when you're in network or out of network with primary, secondary, etc., etc. So, we'll start with the easy one. If you are out of network with both the primary and the secondary, naturally you're out of network. There are absolutely no adjustments to be done. Your fee is your fee. So if you charge $1,000 for something and the primary pays $400 and the secondary pays $400, the patient owes the $200 difference, and there is absolutely no adjustment. When you're in network with one or the other or both is when it can get confusing. So, when you are in network with both the primary or the secondary, you would do your adjustment down to the lowest allowed fee. A lot of people think you only have to write off to the primary fee schedule. That's not correct. If you are in network with both, you write off to either the lowest allowed fee schedule or the combination of the two insurance payments together, whichever one is more. So here's a basic example. You charge $1,000 for a D2740 for a full porcelain crown. The primary allows $700 and pays $350. The secondary, in this first example, has a non-duplication of benefits clause, but allows $800. They will pay $50 because if they were the primary, they would have paid $400. So because the primary only paid $350, the secondary will pay that $50 difference up to what they would have paid if they were primary. You've collected $400. Now, the patient portion would be $300 because you are writing off down to your lowest allowed fee, which is $700 from the primary. So that's example number one. Hopefully that makes sense to everybody. If it doesn't, plug it into the spreadsheet that was uploaded yesterday, and it will show you what the write-offs are, what adjustment has to be done, and what the patient portion is. So put that in there and figure it out, or message me or comment, and we'll get it straightened out. But now let's say the opposite happens, and the two insurances together pay more than your lowest allowed fee. So same example, $1,000 for a crown. The primary allows $700, pays you $350. The secondary allows $800 and pays you $400, so 50% of that. You've now collected $750 for that crown, which means you've collected $50 more than your lowest allowed fee. So in this case, you would do a $250 write-off because remember, you're writing down to either the lowest in-network allowed fee or the combination of the two insurance payments together, whichever is higher. So in this scenario, the two insurance companies together paid more than your lowest allowed fee, which means the patient out of pocket is zero, and your adjustment is going to be less than it would have been if you adjusted down to the lowest allowed fee. So you're only adjusting off $250 instead of adjusting off $300, down from the $1,000 down to the $700 allowed fee. So, that's if you are in network with both. Now, if you're only in network with one, and it doesn't matter if it's primary or secondary, you're going to do the same thing. You're going to write off down to either your allowed fee or the combination of the two insurance payments together, whichever one is higher. So, same example, we're in network with the secondary, we're out of network with the primary. The primary allows $700 and pays $350. The secondary allows $800 and pays $400. So we're in network with the secondary that allows $800. You would do your write-off down to the $800, so $1,000 minus $800 would be a $200 write-off. The primary paid $350, the secondary paid $400, that's $750. You write off down to $800, and the patient owes the $50 in between. So hopefully that makes sense to everybody, but that spreadsheet is in the group files. It should be the top file on there. It's secondary calculations. It's an Excel spreadsheet. There's very few cells, very few places for you to key in information because everything is locked because it's the formulas that are set up exactly the way they have to be. So everything is in there. The macros are running. Everything is good to go. That sheet is ready to go for you. If you're watching this later, not live on YouTube, you can go to our website, practicemechanic.com, click on resources in the upper right-hand corner, and you'll be able to find that secondary calculation spreadsheet and download it from the website. So that is it. I am here. Everybody have a great day, and I will see you tomorrow. Good morning, everybody. It is Thursday, May 13th, and this is our morning drive live. I want to talk today about when it's time to go out of network with insurance companies. A lot of doctors have decided that now is the time, that it's time to start looking at changing their status and going to an out-of-network insurance status rather than in-network. And, that may be a good idea, and it may not, and it may be a good idea to do it part way or halfway or a third of the way or 90% of the way, whatever that may be. But how do we determine when it's right? So, one of the first things that I look at when an office calls me and says, we want to start figuring out who we should be in network with, who we should be out of network with, one of the first things that I look at is their number of new patients coming in every month and their retention numbers. So we've talked before on other Drive Lives about net patient numbers, knowing how many patients you're not only getting new patients every month, but how many existing patients you're losing or are falling off of the schedule. And that's really the first thing I look at. Because if you are going to switch status, if you are going to go out of network, one of the things that is going to happen is, whether it's a very small percentage or a very large percentage, you're going to lose some patients. It might be one or two. It might be 100% of the Delta patients. There's really no way to know. Um, it also depends on the insurance company. Some insurance companies, some plans, some companies will reimburse when they say we'll pay 100% of preventative. If you're out of network, they'll pay 100% of your UCR. Most insurance companies will not. So, these are all things that we need to know, but you need to know, or at least have an idea of what your worst case scenario is. So, what is our revenue going to look like if we drop Delta and we lose 90% of those patients? What if we lose 50% of those patients? What if we only lose 20% of those patients? So you need to know what your revenue is going to look like, and you need to be willing to make, even if they are short term, you need to be willing to make those adjustments kind of on the fly as you see what happens. Because, unless you are doing a very heavy service specific marketing campaign, the chances of you replacing month for month 100% of the patients you're losing are slim. So it's not impossible, but it is difficult. So you need to be prepared to make those on the fly adjustments, which could be closing one extra day a week for a few months. That could be, going to a half day, whatever it may be. You need to be willing and able to make those on the fly adjustments. So, you have to know those numbers, because you have to know what's going to happen in our worst case scenario. Delta, for example, is very, very good at, as soon as you give notice that you are going out of network, they will send every patient who has seen you in the past 12 to 18 months a very nice letter saying that you will be going out of network with their plan. And here is a list of doctors in the area who are in network, and a nice little list of all the reasons why the patients should absolutely go to an in-network dentist. So they're really good about that, and a lot of the other insurance companies are catching on. We need to be prepared, and we need to stay ahead of that. So again, knowing what your doomsday numbers are, knowing what that breakdown is, knowing what your revenue is going to look like if you lose 90%, 50%, 20%, 10% of those patients is very important. But actually making the determination of who are we going to drop first, I look at three main things. Number one, I look at their reimbursement percentage compared to my UCR. So if I charge $100 for a prophy, Delta reimburses me 50. That's a 50% reimbursement. And I do that for every single code. I do that for every insurance company, every fee schedule that we work with. It may not be by insurance company. If you're in network with Carrington and you have 15 different insurance companies that you're in network with through Carrington, that's going to be one fee schedule. So I'll do that for the Carrington fee schedule. I'll do that for the Delta fee schedule. I'll do that for the MetLife fee schedule. And I want to know what they are reimbursing me as a percentage of my UCR. And naturally, the lower that percentage, everybody thinks, well, Delta's reimbursing me at 53%, MetLife is reimbursing me at 61%, I should drop Delta first. However, the second thing we look at is your patient count. And while it may make sense that Delta reimburses less, so I want to go out of network with them first, if Delta represents 50% of your patient base and MetLife only represents 3% of your patient base, that's a much easier decision. So, then you look at, again, the possibility of losing all of those patients. Losing all of those Delta patients in one fell swoop could be catastrophic right now if you make them your first drop. But, losing those 3% of patients that represent your MetLife patient pool is not going to be a catastrophic blow. It's not even going to be a hiccup in your practice. So, you definitely want to look at that and know that. So, that is the second thing I look at, is the percentage of population, we call it, the number of patients that we have who have each of those insurance companies, or each of those are tied to each of those fee schedules. And then the third thing I will look at is shared networks. I mentioned Carrington already. There's a number of other shared networks, another number of other umbrella plans. And if I'm able to drop a direct contract with an insurance company who's reimbursing me at 54% of my UCR, and later get in network with that same insurance company through an umbrella plan that's maybe reimbursing me 75 or 80 or 85% of my UCR, then I'll do that in order to stay in network with the insurance. But even without negotiating, just by going in network with them through the umbrella, I've immediately raised my rates by 25 or 30%. So that's the third thing to look at. So there's a lot of decisions to be made. There's a lot of numbers to be looked at. I don't want people to bring emotion into this. It's business. We have to look at the numbers. We all get upset when Delta and United Concordia and Cigna, and they're denying everything and they're making it hard to get paid. It is a very emotional thing for us because they're messing with our money. But we have to take the emotion out of it and look at it purely from a numbers standpoint in order to do what's best for the business. So hopefully that makes sense to everybody. I am here. Everyone have a great day, and I will see you tomorrow. Good morning, everybody. It is Friday, May 14th, and this is our morning drive live. I want to address something today that I've gotten actually a number of Facebook messages about over the past 2 or 3 days. I guess because people are going back through the old Drive Live videos and watching them and emailing, messaging with questions about things that I've talked about on previous Drive Lives. So, although I don't want to repeat myself constantly, this is something that I did want to address, something that I wanted to talk about, and something that I personally have spent a lot of time investigating and looking into, and that is sending out statements to patients. So, excuse me, I want to say first and foremost, I hate sending statements to patients. It's expensive. The average office nationwide spends $7 per statement to mail them out. Now, that's not $7 for the envelope, the paper, the stamp, so on and so forth, but the average cost to send a statement is $7. Processing time, employee time to research, because whether it is that way in your office or not, in a lot of offices, believe it or not, people will queue statements and then they sit and go through every single statement checking to make sure the account is balanced, to make sure the statement amount is correct, and it takes a lot of time. So that's when I say the average cost nationwide is $7 per statement. That's what it costs an average practice to mail it out. Research time, time spent, then if you are printing, stuffing, mailing the envelope, then the envelope, the paper, so on and so forth, if you're not having it sent out and done electronically. And I want to avoid that because we send, a lot of offices send hundreds of those every single month. So, number one, the first step is how do we avoid that? And we avoid that by collecting as close as possible to any estimation as we can at the time of service. I fully believe that patients should pay for what they are receiving at the time of service. If you're an out-of-network or a fee-for-service office, we've talked about the difference between those two before, collect at the time of service. Collect when the patient has the work done. If you're out of network, have the check sent. Opt out of assignment of benefits. Have the check from the insurance company sent to the patient. Have them pay at time of service. So, that's number one, how we avoid having to send out statements and chase our own money. Number two is something that is new, and that is electronically sending statements. And I love that. I love the thought of being able to text somebody and say, hey, you have a $20 balance. You have a $16 balance on your account. Send them a text. I just went to the dermatologist a couple weeks ago. They did some stuff. I paid my copay. A couple weeks later, I got a text from them. Hey, you have a $20 balance. I logged into my insurance company website. I looked at the EOB. I went, yep, I have a $20 balance. I clicked on the link in the text message, and I paid them actually using Apple Pay in like 30 seconds. They had their money. They were happy. I was paid. They didn't have to mail me a statement. It was super easy. And I prefer to do things that way. So, that is an option. But again, for a lot of offices, that still requires the time to go through the account, make sure it's accurate, so on and so forth. So, the other option out there, and again, this is something that I've just started learning about, is legally maintaining credit cards on file using something like a vault. Like I said, I've just started learning about this as an option. I've just started learning that there's a way to do this legally that's PCI compliant. A lot of people will have the patient sign a form and they keep the form in a binder with the credit card number and all that stuff. The problem is that's not PCI compliant. You have to be PCI compliant, because if you have one complaint and you get looked at, you get audited, and they find out you have credit card numbers scanned into Smart Docs or the Doc Center, or you have credit card numbers in a binder sitting at the front desk, you will lose your ability to accept credit cards, possibly forever, but at bare minimum for 12 to 24 months. So, there has to be a way to do it that's compliant with the PCI regulations. And, one of those things is companies that offer online automated processing. You enter the credit card number once, and it's saved. You don't have access to it. You can't see the full credit card number, which is exactly what you want for PCI compliance, but you still have the ability to automatically charge that balance every single time the patient has a balance. And that, I think, is a huge thing, because sending and mailing statements is very expensive. Now, if you are going to continue to do statements, here's what I had talked about before. Do them every day. Don't just send statements once a month. Send them out every single day. When you're entering insurance payments, if a statement has a balance, or if a patient has a balance after the insurance has paid, there's no more outstanding claims, cue a statement, print out a statement, get the statement ready to go that day. That way you're not sending 4, 5, 6, 700 statements all at one time a month. That generates a lot of phone calls, a lot of patients calling. Why do I have a bill? Why do I have a bill? I want to avoid that. I want to spread that out as much as humanly possible. So we send out statements every single day. Number one, it helps us with our cash flow. We don't have one week of the month where we collect $22,000 and another week where we collect, $4,200. I don't want that. I want things to be spread out. I want things to be even and equal over the month for cash flow purposes. So, send the statements out as you are entering payments. I enter an insurance payment. Oh, this patient has a $27 balance. Cue statement. Statement goes into the statement wizard. Statement gets batched, whatever it may be, and I send them out at the end of the day, every single day. Yes, once a month, I'm processing statements for those unpaid balances from before, but it's not 400 all at one time. At least it shouldn't be. So hopefully that makes sense. Everybody understands that. I cleared that up for the people who have been messaging, asking about statements, about when to send them out. So that is it. It is Friday. I am here. Everybody have a fantastic weekend, and I will see you guys on Monday.